Oh. So we're going to move forward from the feeding of the 5,000. I think we went through that fairly thoroughly, and you should be ready to answer any questions on your final exam. By the way, this is it today. So from here on out, you're just studying for your final and your final. So this will.
What day? What day are we playing the keys up player?
Yeah, so you're on the last day. We'll play the Keyser quiz. When is the day that we have just 2 class
It's
periods?
Friday. Friday and Monday.
Oh, and Monday.
Yeah, right. But Monday is the day we just have first and second. So that's so you'll have time to study for your finals. So when you come here tomorrow and Friday, come with what you need to study. If you're like, I got this, bud, don't worry about it, then bring your biology or bring your math or bring whatever it is that you need the most to work on. I'm fine with that. I understand my final is not the hardest final you will be taking. Yeah, but I want you working on something. I mean, I'm pretty sure that every single one of you could use some more time studying. So use it wisely. Okay, so we're going to talk about Jesus walking on the water. There we go. That's where we want to be. When the people saw the sign that Jesus had done, they said, "This is indeed the prophet who is to come into the world." Perceiving then that they were about to come and take him by force to make him king, Jesus withdrew again to the mountain by himself. So what basically happened here is that Jesus realized that he was going to be mobbed, quite literally, by these people. And so he told the disciples, "Go, get in the boat, go across the lake." And so they go to the boat, he slips away into a quiet place, and then the rest of this happens. So when evening came, his disciples went down to the sea, got into the boat, and started across the sea to Capernaum. It was now dark, and Jesus had not yet come to them. The sea became rough because a strong wind was blowing. When they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus walking on the sea and coming near the boat, and they were frightened. But he said to them, "It is I, do not be afraid." They were glad to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat was at the land to which they were going. So this is this story, or one like it, is also told in the Synoptic Gospels, and in one of them, Peter, wants to walk on the water too, and it ends up, being an issue for him. I don't know if that happened this time, and John just didn't record it, or if that was the second time that Jesus walked on the water. But I do know that John tells us this story so that we would see that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. And so how do we see that here? And that's what I want to talk about. So Jesus knows that they want to make him king. He knows it's not time for his hour has not yet come. And so he slips away. Was that miraculous or not? Don't know for sure. Maybe he was just a ninja-like guy. I don't know. That could get out of just difficult situations. I have no idea. But the king they were looking for was not the king that he was. Was he a king? Absolutely, he's the king of the universe. But they wanted a king that would overthrow them. They wanted a king that would free them from the rule of Rome. And that's not why Jesus came. And he was not going to do that. So he slips away. And then the next thing that it says is that the disciples are in trouble. So before we get to that, we're going to talk about Capernaum. The people want to make Jesus king. When the people saw the sign that he had done, they said, "This is indeed the prophet who is to come into the world." Perceiving that they were about to come and take him by force to make him king, Jesus withdrew again to the mountain by himself. So this is the roughly the path that they would have been taking to get to Capernaum, and that's where they end up in Capernaum. These storms often came up, and they still do in the Sea of Galilee because of the winds, and particularly because of the winds that go through that chasm, and they concentrate through there, and then they spread over the north part of the Sea of Galilee. So you can be on the Sea of Galilee, and it's perfectly calm, and it's a beautiful day, and let's go fishing, and then all of a sudden, wow, everything breaks loose, and there's this huge storm. And this is what happened here, and it happened elsewhere in Scripture as well. So within hours of this great blessing of the feeding of the 5,000, you have this trial that the disciples are facing with this storm and no Jesus there with them. And that happens to us sometimes, right? Life can be going along just fine, and we think everything's good, and then something happens that is out of the blue and difficult, and things change. And things can change quickly sometimes. This is the situation that they're in. Now, I love this passage, and I love teaching this passage. Am I going to be able to read it again? Yeah. Okay. So when they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus walking on the water and coming near the boat, and they were frightened. But he said to them, "It is I, do not be afraid." Then they were glad to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat was at the land to which they were going. Is that a miracle? Maybe. It reads like one to me, but I don't think we can know for sure. So I want to talk about this a little bit because in I don't know which gospel it is, but in another gospel it says that Jesus was walking on the sea, coming near the boat, and he was about to pass them by. And that is significant because it's not like it reads like Jesus is playing like this trick on him, like, right, look at me, I'm walking on the water, and make it. But that's not what that means. That term "pass by" we see over and over again in the Old Testament. And every time when it says God passed by, do you remember when Moses was on the mountain and he asks to see God's glory? And God says, "Yeah, no, that's not going to work because then you're going to die and I need a leader, so that's just not a good idea." But he says, "I'll tell you what I will do. I'll put you in this cleft of the rock with your back toward me, and I will pass by you." Everywhere in the Old Testament, when God says he will pass by, he is revealing his glory. He's revealing something more of who he is. And in this case, that's exactly what it means. He was about to show them more of who he is. These were written that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. John records this story because only God can do this. In fact, in the Old Testament, I wish I knew the exact place. It might be in Job, I'm not sure. But it says that only God can tread the waves. And so he's showing them, he's saying, I'm Messiah. Who is Jesus? He's Messiah. He's the Son of God. He's Messiah. And that's exactly why John recorded this. And then he says this. He says, "It is I." Anyone want to take a stab at what that is in the Greek? I am. You go, I am. I am. He says, don't be afraid. Or he says, I am. Don't be afraid. I'm God. Don't be afraid. And I just thought of this. I don't think I've ever said this before when I taught this. But to me, like, that should be a clarion cry. That should be a kind of a thesis statement for our lives. Don't be afraid. I am. You don't need to be afraid. You don't need to be afraid about anything. I am is with you. And that's what he's telling the disciples. Now, in another version of this, they were like afraid of him. Not in the sense that they thought he was going to hurt them or do something bad, but like, who can do this? And they were afraid of how powerful he was, or they realized that they didn't understand all that he was, and they couldn't, and we can't. We can understand what we can understand, but we will never fully understand God this side of heaven. We'll never fully understand Jesus this side of heaven because we're not God. So he reveals more of who he is, and then the very last part of this is that the Lord saves the day. And then it says this. Trust God and obey his every command. He knows what he's doing. And I'm here to tell you, and you've probably already experienced this in your young lives, but certainly in my long life I have. There are gonna be times when you're gonna think that he does not know what he's doing. In fact, I've told people that I put I might have told you this, too high of a priority on fun. If it is not fun, I'm really not sure that I want to do it. And sometimes I don't, because it's just not fun. Like, I could probably like, but I don't want to, because it's just not fun. And I've literally prayed. See, I'm not having fun here. This is not fun. You understand? I am not having fun. Like, he's my cruise director, right? To make sure I'm having fun. But we're to obey anyway. We're to trust anyway. And it goes better for us when we just it was eye-opening to me after I came to Christ and my heart changed. And I wasn't constantly rebelling against my parents. I wasn't constantly doing things I wasn't supposed to do. How much peace and how much joy came into my life. Just because I was doing it. Now, I don't always obey God. Sometimes I go, I don't think so. But life goes better for me. Life goes better for everyone. Okay, so that's the end of that. So now we're going to do that quiz that I handed out to you. And we'll just keep rolling with the video so that people at home can know what we're talking about. So I'm going to give you the answer to the first one because I know some of you start twitching if you don't have all the blanks filled in. So I don't care. But we're not going to. I don't think we know for sure. This is a timing question. So about how much time passed between the end of John 5 and the events of John 6? A, 1 year, except not 1 day. Excuse me. I stopped thinking. D, 1 year. Only if that unnamed feast is Passover. And we don't know if that unnamed feast because it's unnamed. So we can't know for sure. Most of the Gospel of John deals with I don't know if you, no, this is another timing thing. It's C, 3rd year, don't know for sure. So Well, that's probably true. That's probably true because when he says the hour has come, we're in the very last part of his life. It's Easter when that happens. So a huge portion of, and I think that happens in chapter 12. There's 21 chapters in John. So that many chapters is the last week of Jesus' life. Yeah, the hour has come. I think it's 12 or 13, around in there. I know it's before 14. Okay, so before feeding the people, Jesus had the disciples ask them to
In groups.
sit in groups. And I did not talk about this either. We will not have a question on this. Number 4, Anathanasius argued against Arianism, a doctrine that denies the divine equality of the Father and the Son. We will talk about Arianism sometime. In John 6, Jesus withdrew to a mountain by himself because he knew that the people would try to make him king. Is it just me? Or would it make more sense to go A, B, C, D than to go A, B, C? Okay, are you left-handed? Oh, good. It's not just me. Sometimes I'm backwards because I'm left-handed. Anyway, just bothers me. Anyway, number 5. No. That's what we just did. In the middle of the storm, the disciples saw Jesus sitting on a cloud. Absolutely, 100%. That was you walking on the water.
It was sitting on a cloud.
Swimming closer. Does it say? Oh my gosh, ignoring them. That sounds like Jesus, doesn't it? Wait, I'm coming. Yeah.
Pull over.
Don't leave me.
He's just sitting here. No, he's just on like an ancient jet ski going through
in the water. That would have been much easier. Of all of Christ's miracles, the feeding of the 5,000 is the only one recorded by all 4 gospel writers. Describe a lesson from this miracle that you believe is helpful to all kinds of people. So what's something you learned in this lesson? Let's put it this way. What's something that you learned in this lesson that is helpful to you? That stuck out to you? And of course, the answer is correct because yes.
God will always provide, even if it doesn't really look like it's going to be mental.
Yeah, God will provide. Absolutely. And then when you're done with that, the rest of the hour is for you to study for